Hi, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Gail. And welcome to Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined, our award-winning weekly podcast. Please visit womenover70.com, consider joining our Aging Reimagined circle, become a sponsor, and mark your calendar now to attend our first symposium on October 19th, 2024. Please join us in continuing to inspire women to age with curiosity, creativity, and contribution.
And today we're very happy to be talking with Wendy Green, another podcaster. Wendy is 70. She's a boomer who has reinvented herself many times. And we meet her today as the founder and host of the Hey Boomer shows, as a coach, and as the architect of boomer-centered events. Wendy's goals align so well with Women Over 70, and in her words, "My goal is to provide inspiration to empower you to live the meaningful, purposeful life you want to live." And she emphasizes that connection and community are essential for women as we age. And the focus of our conversation with Wendy will be the subject of her recent blog, I Don't Feel Old. And Wendy is referred to us by two other podcast guests, Sky Bergman and Helen Hirsch. So Wendy, welcome to Women Over 70.
Thank you, Catherine and Gail. I'm so happy to be with you.
Thank you. So why don't we begin by having you tell us about the birth of Hey Boomer, but your mission, your audience.
I would love to. Yeah, Hey Boomer, I guess it really grew out of my whole life experience. You know, everybody talks about finding your purpose, and my belief is that our purpose evolves as we evolve. And so as a single mom, my purpose was getting my kids the best childhood that they could have, getting them through school, teaching them to be responsible adults. And they have become. So I'm happy to say that. After they left home, it was, oh my gosh, who am I now? And that's when I was working with a coach, and she said to me one day, "You know what? I think you'd make a good coach." And I was like, oh, light bulb moment. Yes, that's what I want to be. I want to be a coach. And so I took some very intensive coach training, which was a fabulous program, and started down that path while I was also still working as a director of training. And then the pandemic hit. And if you know anything about corporate training, every time there's a downturn in the economy, well, we sure don't need training anymore. And so, lost that opportunity. And it became clear to me that women in our age group, women and men, but women particularly, were going to need to know that this was not the end. Even though the pandemic shut us down, we still matter. We still have a lot left to give. We're still relevant. And so my question to myself was, well, how do you do that, Wendy, from inside your house? I didn't really know much about podcasting at the time, so it was Facebook Live. I said, I'll do a Facebook Live. And I called some friends and said, can you be guests? I'm going to start this Facebook Live to encourage people to stay involved, to feel relevant. And from there, we now, 4 years later, still go live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube now, and then take the recording, the audio part of that, and distribute it out to all of the different podcast apps. I also have transformed the purpose of Hey Boomer, which was initially, what are you going to do next? And we talked to a lot of inspiring people, and we talked a lot about retirement and unretirement and, everybody trying to figure out what that means. To when I turned 70, it was one of those reinvention moments. I said, okay, there's a lot more that we need to talk about now that we're 70, that we are recognizing some of the challenges, physical challenges, emotional challenges, mental challenges that happen as we age. And let's talk about, and relationship challenges. Let's talk about that and dig a little bit deeper. So that's where we're going this year.
And you also you plan events, I think, don't you? You have Do you have events on Zoom or in person?
I do, yes. Thank you for asking about that, Catherine. I have 2 membership events similar to what you do with your Aging Reimagined Circle. I call one the Boomer Banter, and that's a community gathering where we come together and talk about specific topics that are really relevant to the community. And the nice thing is it really has developed a sense of community. So when we meet monthly, people are feeling like they're seeing friends again, and we check in on each other, in fact, one of our members in Maine, when that shooting happened in Maine, everybody was reaching out to her. Are you okay? Is your family okay? So I love that has developed in that group. The other group is the Boomer Believers, and the Believers are also members of the Banter, but the Believers is a smaller group, and they get to meet monthly with one of my guests from the month. And they get to really dig in and ask all the questions that, you're sitting, listening to the podcast, you're saying, oh, wait, ask this. And so they get to ask those questions and get some more specific details and answers.
Great idea.
Thank you.
So you wrote this blog, I Don't Feel Old.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found it very interesting, and I'm curious to know what made you want to do that, to write that?
Yeah, that was, it was a moment of inspiration, really. I've been reading so much. I've been reading about what is old. And medically, I'm seeing it, people are saying, 60, 70 is old. Biologically, I guess they're saying that's old. And I thought, well, I don't feel old. It's a challenging topic, Gail. We talk about ourselves as older. We're all aging, and I embrace that. But old is what I thought my grandparents were. And in a lot of ways, when I look at how they lived their lives and the lifespan that they had, at my age, they were old. At 70, they were definitely declining and not as capable of staying involved in their lives. And that was part of the way I think our society viewed them as well. But old is a state of mind, in my opinion. Now, my mother, who is 93, she sees herself as old, although she still goes to the gym. She still is a member of a book club. She remarried at 88. So,
Yeah.
so I think she sees herself as old because what she's saying to herself now is, I don't have to be as involved as I once was. I don't have to be out there, with the women's movement and all. I can still write to my congressman. I can do those kinds of things, but I don't have to. I'm comfortable. I'm settled in a lot of ways. And that's a lovely place to be. But
one of our guests, one of our guests some time ago said, I used to be growing older and now I'm old. And I think she was about 85 when she said that. She just, a couple of days ago, turned 90. And I didn't get that. I didn't understand what she was saying until more recently. I think I understand it now. But she's comfortable with being old. It's just...
Right. And that's where I think my mother is. She's comfortable with... And I want to get there. But at 70, I'm comfortable with being 70 and still going out dancing and still going for hikes and traveling and, being there with my grandkids, and they're teens now, but cheering them on and, that kind of thing. I'm a very active, involved person, and I don't feel old.
I think it's an interesting phenomena that happens, and that is that the older one gets, the younger, 70, 75, how that looks young. And so what's happening is that women, that we interview who are in, like you, having just turned 70, are feeling like, well, we're living till we're 80, 90, 100 now. 70's young.
Well, and I love to hear you say that, Gail, because I was curious about how you feel about that, because I look at some of these women who are in their 50s and they're talking about, midlife women and reinventing. And there's a part of me that says, okay, there's still a long way for you to go to learn what happens between 50 and 70. And I imagine between 70 and 80, there's a long way to go.
Right, or 93 like your mother.
That's right.
Or 110, which was the oldest woman we've interviewed so far.
Right. 110, really?
Yeah.
She was amazing.
So what response have you gotten to your blog? I know it just came out recently, but what kind of responses are you hearing?
A lot of people are resonating with it, both on LinkedIn and Facebook. And, I think what they really liked was the fact that I said, I still feel inside parts of me that were 18 and parts of me that were 24 and parts of me that were 35. We still have those feelings and those memories and those excitement that we had then. And the way I can really relate to that, though, is when I was a very much of an activist as a young woman, protesting and all of that stuff. And I love it now to see the young kids carrying on that passion. I will go out for certain things, but I don't have to go out as much as I once did. And I understand there's more gray now. And, in their world, it's black and white. And it has to be that way because that's the way change happens. And I think a lot of the people that responded to the blog by email or comments were saying the same kinds of things, that, yeah, we feel those feelings and we don't feel old now either.
So I think in that blog, I Don't Feel Old, you mentioned about changes in relationships, and then you had an earlier blog where that was the focus. So tell us a bit about what you've observed about changes in relationships as we get older.
Yeah, I think that's a very important one. I've been doing episodes around family dynamics and estrangement. I've been doing episodes around gray divorce, around the changing relationships in friendships and in, husbands and wives when they both retire. And, I think it's more, we have more awareness of what that means as we age. When we're young, as I'm sure you all remember, oh, she's my best friend today. Tomorrow, she won't speak to me, right? But I think relationships today, we recognize how so important and vital they are to our mental health, our longevity, our sense of community, our sense of stability. And so let's talk about estrangement. When either a parent becomes estranged from a child or siblings become estranged, it's devastating for the family. And as we age, we start to realize, I don't even remember why I stopped talking to my sister or my brother or my aunt or my uncle. And I don't want to go to my grave with that kind of resentment. And so we look for ways to build those bridges back. And if it's possible, then, that's a win for everybody. And there's a lot of work to be done in those areas. And I was shocked, Catherine, at how many people are experiencing those kinds of breaks in family relationships. What a big problem it really is. I was not aware until I did the episodes and how important it seems to be to find a way back. So that, and relationships, we know in all the literature that having relationships, particularly with females, because we tend to live longer and we tend to share feelings more than men. We know how important it is to have that trusted 2:00 in the morning friend that you can call if you need help all of a sudden. And many people don't know who that person is, even today. So I encourage people to start having those conversations, reach out, find that 2:00 in the morning person.
You'll be calling me at 2:00 in the morning. Yeah, that's important. I think so many of our guests talk about the importance of friendships, especially female friendships, and how some of the research suggests that female friendships as we age are even more important than relationships with a spouse or a partner. So.
Which is not surprising, right? Because with a spouse or a partner, we have that, hopefully that sense of stability and comfort, but that to share our deep feelings and our fears and concerns, talking to women is much easier. And they're not trying to fix it for you, they just want to be there for you.
Be there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Important, right? Yeah. 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 Especially for people who live alone.
Absolutely. And one of my guests, Joy Laverde, she, we talked about that 2:00 in the morning friend, that when you live alone and, you need someone to call if something happens, who are you going to call? I'm not calling my 93-year-old mother. Mm-hmm. She doesn't drive anymore. But I actually had a girlfriend call me after that episode and say, I'll be your 2:00 in the morning friend. Wow. Nice. Really something. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Made you feel good, I'm sure.
It made me feel great, Gail. It was really very sweet.
Gail, don't you have friends or friends that you check in with every day? With your son?
I do emojis in the morning. Because I live alone, people want to know that I've awakened and I'm into a new day. And so I send an emoji to my friend, to my son, and others. We manage to somehow text each other during the day just to let each other know that we're doing stuff.
Yeah,
it's a really good thing to do, especially that early in the morning. It gives you the feeling of friendship for sure when someone is interested in whether or not you're awake and doing well.
Right. And then do they respond back with an emoji?
Yes, they do. I didn't expect that especially with my son. It was my daughter-in-law's idea that we do this. And because they live in California and I'm here, so we really have no way of knowing unless we talk to each other. And, everybody has busy lives. So we do this. But I had no idea that when I would emoji them, they would emoji me back.
I love it. I love it.
That becomes a real relationship, that makes you feel good.
Yeah. I have one person in the morning that I text in the mornings, just, good morning, because I live alone also, except for my cat.
I want to go back to this notion of the difference between being old and feeling old. And when we are feeling old, to what extent this notion of inner ageism creeps in? Can you speak to, and I know you've written about that as well.
I have written about that, yeah. And that's been an interesting learning journey for me. I think as baby boomer, I grew up feeling like, we're eternally young, right? All of our songs were about that. Don't trust anybody over 30. The Beatles, will you still love me when I'm 64? And so the whole idea of turning old, I don't think we even imagined what that was like. And then I remember when my parents had moved into a senior living facility, and I would go to the dining room with them, and so many people were using walkers or in wheelchairs, and it just made me feel bad inside. I thought, oh, please don't let that be me. And I remember talking one time on a like a coffee chat with Ashton Applewhite, who, of course, I think you've interviewed her too, right? And she said, that's ableism. I was like, oh, what's ableism? So it has certainly been a journey for me to understand aging is a process that we all go through. And as I got to know these people in the dining room and experience their actual joy in life, they mostly were grateful and happy to be alive and be there and be with friends and part of this community. And the fact that they used a walker, that helped them get there, so it has been a journey of acceptance on my part to say, okay, so all of this is part of aging, and that internal ageism of, ooh, I don't want that to be me, is what stands in our way of acceptance. And so turning 70 was almost a reawakening for me. It was, like I said in the blog, 60, 65, those were hard birthdays for me. They seemed like, oh gosh, now I'm getting close to being old. And turning 70 didn't feel old. Turning 70 felt like a celebration. It was fantastic, actually. And I'm happy to declare my age now and to, embrace it and to try and stay as physically active, although I have slowed down for sure. But I'm aware that the more we move and the more our mental states too have such a big impact on how we view ourselves as we age.
So when you're coaching, women, especially women 60 and older, what are some of the main issues that you hear from them? Is there a pattern? Is there a theme?
You know what? A lot of what I hear is that they are not done, but their husbands are. And they don't know what to do next. They still want to be active and involved and engaged and reinvent themselves and do all of these things because they still have energy. And their husbands have said, I'm done. I mean, I worked 65, 70 years. I don't want to do anything anymore, which really surprised me. And I actually did a survey of my audience because I do have men and women in my audience. And it was true. More men seemed ready to just say, the golf course looks good. That's all I want to do. And women are not ready. So it does create some imbalance in the relationship for sure when they both retire. Mm-hmm. Nana, have you found that?
Our community is women.
Mm-hmm.
And women are full of creativity, curiosity, and purpose, wanting to do more and more and more. We see more examples, I think, of women who find a new passion late in life and then go after it with all they've got. And they get on committees and they're working and they get overwhelmed and overloaded by their new volunteerism.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're courageous, they find this new passion, this new purpose, and they're willing to be courageous to go after it. Whereas a lot of times the men say, well, I never did anything like that before. I can't try that.
We have a number of women who are widows, and they of course talk about how devastating it has been to lose their spouse or life partner. At the same time, they also talk about having found new passions, new purpose, ways of really creating very meaningful, active lives in ways that they wouldn't have done, when they were still married.
Yeah. I coach a lot of people going into retirement, or I call it what's next. And I use the book Transitions, and we talk about that middle area, the neutral zone, or the messy middle. And, I think it's an important time when we are at an age now where we can stop and do some reflection. We don't have to immediately find that next job, or that, we're not worried. Most of us, hopefully, are not worried about that next paycheck. And so having that time to really reflect, what did I like to do? What do I want to do? Where can I make a difference? Where can I be creative? I think we get the opportunity, which is a beautiful thing, to question that and to explore that and to try new things. And it's a great time of life.
We often ask how you think about aging, your own aging process, and I think you've been describing that. But is there anything else that you would say about sort of how you see yourself aging, and then what's next on the horizon for you?
Oh, great question. I do recognize some of the aches and pains that have come up. Certainly have slowed me down with my walking and hiking, and a couple of visits to physical therapy over the last year or so. And I recognize when I have to stop myself and say, okay, so that's part of it. A little arthritis is part of being 70. And so work through it, but don't stop. And that's how I see aging. It's still a process. You're still moving forward. Don't stop. What's next? What's next? I want to keep going with my show. I love doing the show. Mm-hmm. I meet the most amazing people. I love the impact it seems to have on the audience. Doing more events. I'd love to take it on the road. I think that would be so much fun. People say, write a book. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm not done. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show, Wendy. It's been a pleasure. And I signed up for your newsletter, so I hope to get a lot more of what it is that you have to say. It's wonderful wisdom coming from you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's been so much fun talking to both of you. I love what you're doing in your audience, too.
Thank you. And listeners, because of your loyalty, our numbers continue to grow. Still, we need your support. Visit womenover70.com, join Aging Reimagined Circle, or make a donation. Let your voice be heard and help change the conversation about women aging.